Hey everybody, my name is Nate Bull and I'm with an urban church plant called Hesed in Detroit, Michigan.
And my name is Mark Van Andel. I'm also part of the Hesed leadership team. And we're going to talk to you today about leadership development. Our context we're going to walk you through is in the urban context, but this should be transferable to wherever you're doing ministry.
Our first item for discussion, if you want to call it that, is the need for Indigenous leaders. I think we are both in agreement that we would consider ourselves domestic missionaries, and so we kind of support ourselves that way. We think about ourselves in our ministry context as an unreached people group, and that does mean that for us we had to think about what were we going to do to help with the sustainability issue in those areas, because the funding is not necessarily the same as a regular church plant. And we got to still think about being there for a long term or making an impact long term. So when it comes down to a long term impact in inner city areas, we had to focus in on Indigenous leadership, which means taking a chance on someone, seeing where they're at, and then helping them develop a pathway for getting to wherever they feel God is calling them to lead in that context.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that would happen when I was doing ministry in my neighborhood, I would encounter lots of young people who would say to me, Mark, that's fine for you and in the context that you grew up in, but that doesn't really translate here. So what we've realized is we need to implant ourselves and the vision that we have for ministry into people who have grown up in the community, who can then translate the things that we care about into the language and in the customs of the people that we're interacting with in the neighborhood. So in order to do that, we were guided through a leadership development process that helped us to identify some steps that we were going to help people go through. So one of the things we realized was we needed a plan to know that we were taking people on a journey, and those people needed a plan to know that they were going on a journey, that there was a process that they were being developed in, a specific and intentional process. So in order to do that, we developed language that fit our context. So we do street ministry. Essentially, we've got a ministry house in a specific neighborhood context that we just use that house as a way to serve our neighbors. So people will come for food, or if they need to use the restroom or running water. Some people take showers or do laundry there. And it's kind of a ministry outpost there where people get to engage with us, and then we get to have conversations about the Lord with them in that context. So Nate and I talked with our team about developing these kind of categories that helped identify where people were at in the journey. So if we start with the first one, resident, the idea there is it's just anyone in the neighborhood. It's anyone who lives in that context, who's working or moving through that context. And those people, we just want to identify them. They are created in the image of God. They are people that we see and we recognize as part of our community. But then as we get to interact with people and have more personal relationships with them, we see them moving towards neighbor. So these are people we know by name, people we may have had conversations about the Lord with. They may come to our Bible study or lunch sometime at the ministry house, and so we kind of move along. And then we develop them into friends where we really share our hearts with them and we begin to get vision for them. There are also character kind of traits that we're looking for in people that are able to be taught, that are willing to be taught, that are interested in growing, that are moving into these categories. And then after they've been part of the friendship, then they're part of the family. And they're growing into a spot where now you're with us, you believe in our mission and our vision, you're understanding these things, you can go with us, and you really are part of this same vision moving forward for ministry in our neighborhood. And then finally, the reproducing stage is the parent stage, where they then become disciple-making disciples, where they're replicating themselves in other people. So this is kind of the trajectory that we've seen in terms of development of this leadership development process for people in our neighborhood. You want to share briefly about some people or ways that you've seen people kind of moving through this?
Well, it has been our experience that particularly in the friend, family, and parent stages, that if you can invest really, really heavily in Indigenous leaders, really, really heavily in people from the neighborhood, it seems like it slows down the process, but it actually has the capability to multiply the process, because then they're able to do ministry in the same way in another context or another neighborhood, and that's what we're looking for, because because of our style of and our understanding of doing ministry in those contexts. We had to figure out how are we going to multiply efforts, because we need efforts multiplied. Mm-hmm. And this is just one of the ways that we can say, no matter where you're at as far as your leadership ability, because I think we all agree that everyone's leading somewhere. So if you're with us, then we can figure out how are you leading and what are things that you're doing right now that are hurting or helping that, and then develop a plan together with, let's see how we can develop you into a leader that can help in the network of churches.
Yeah. So thank you very much for your time today. God bless your ministry.